Mercedes just lost their biggest advantage, and Ferrari finally figured out why. Not in the race, not in qualifying, but after Suzuka, inside the data. Because while everyone was celebrating the podium, Ferrari engineers found something hidden in the numbers. A pattern that repeats every single lap. A loss of performance worth almost a full second. And a weakness Mercedes hoped no one would understand. Here's the shocking part. Ferrari didn't just find their problem. They found Mercedes' secret. A system so efficient, it's been giving them control of every straight, every lap, every race. But now, that secret is no longer hidden. And if Ferrari can exploit what they just discovered, Mercedes could go from dominant to vulnerable faster than anyone expects. Subscribe now, because what Ferrari uncovered after Japan could decide the entire season. But the moment that discovery started was not after the race. It was during it. Lap after lap, Ferrari drivers were feeling something they couldn't explain. Not a loss of grip, not instability, something more subtle. The car felt strong in the corners, confident, predictable, almost fast enough. And then, every time they exited onto a straight, the same sensation, power fading, not instantly, but progressively, like something was running out. And this is where things get interesting, because from the outside, it didn't look dramatic. No smoke, no visible failure, just Mercedes pulling away, effortlessly, meter by meter. And here's where Ferrari started asking the right questions. Why does the loss always happen at the same point? Why does it repeat every lap? Why can't the drivers do anything about it? Because when a driver feels a limitation they can't control, that's not driving, that's engineering. So after the race, Ferrari went deeper, much deeper. They analyzed throttle traces, battery deployment curves, energy recovery phases, and what they saw was incredibly precise. Ferrari was deploying energy aggressively at the start of the straight. Strong initial acceleration, good exit speed. But then, too early, the energy dropped. And when it dropped, the car lost its edge. Meanwhile, Mercedes was doing the opposite. Smoother deployment, more controlled release. And most importantly, they still had power when Ferrari didn't. This is the key. Because Formula One today is not about who has more power. It's about who can use it longer. And Ferrari realized something critical. They weren't just losing power. They were running out of it. Too soon. And that changes everything. Because now the issue is not peak performance. It's efficiency, energy management across the entire lap. And once Ferrari understood that, they stopped looking at the engine as a single problem and started seeing it as a system where every part is connected. The battery, the deployment strategy, the recovery under braking, the way energy flows through the car. And suddenly, the gap to Mercedes started to make sense. Because Mercedes isn't just faster, they're smarter with their energy. They don't waste it early. They don't overcommit. They extend performance until the very last meter of the straight. Which means one thing. While Ferrari fades, Mercedes keeps attacking. And that's why the gap looks so brutal on track. But here's where the story takes another turn. Because once Ferrari identified this pattern, they realized something even more important. This is fixable. Not easy, but fixable. Because unlike pure engine power, which takes months or years to redesign, energy deployment can be optimized, mapped, adjusted, refined. And that means Ferrari now has something they didn't have before Suzuka. A direction, a clear target. And in Formula One, that's where comebacks begin. But don't get comfortable yet, because solving the problem is only half the story. The real challenge is how fast they can do it. Because while Ferrari is working to catch up, Mercedes is not standing still. They're evolving too. And there's another factor entering the equation. One that could accelerate everything, or destroy Ferrari's chances completely. And almost nobody is talking about it. And that factor is time. Not lap time, development time. Because right now, Formula One has entered one of the most dangerous phases of the season. A break. Several weeks without racing. No pressure from the next weekend. No immediate results to chase. Just engineers, simulations, and decisions that can redefine everything. For Ferrari, this break is an opportunity, but also a risk. Because now they finally know where they are losing. Energy deployment, efficiency, sustained power. But knowing the problem is not the same as solving it. And this is where things get uncomfortable again. Because improving energy deployment is not just changing a setting. It's not a simple adjustment. It affects everything. How the battery charges, how the power is released, how the car behaves under acceleration, even how the driver approaches each corner. Change one part, and you risk breaking another. So Ferrari faces a very specific challenge. Fix the weakness without creating a new one. And that takes precision. But here's the part that should worry Mercedes. Because Ferrari doesn't need perfection. They just need improvement. Even a small gain in energy efficiency changes the entire picture. Suddenly, they're closer on the straights. Suddenly, they can defend. Suddenly, they can stay within range. And in Formula One, being close is everything. Because once you're within reach, strategy comes into play. Pressure builds. Mistakes happen. And this is where Mercedes becomes vulnerable. Because up until now, they've been operating comfortably, managing races from the front, controlling pace, avoiding direct fights. But if Ferrari closes that gap, that comfort disappears. Now they have to push, lap after lap. And when teams start pushing, errors appear. But there's another layer to this. Because Mercedes is not just fighting Ferrari. They're managing an entire ecosystem. Customer teams, shared technology, data flowing between different cars using the same engine. And while that gives them strength, it also creates pressure. Because every upgrade, every change, has wider consequences. They can't just take risks freely. They have to be precise, controlled, measured, and that slows things down. Ferrari doesn't have that limitation. They answer only to themselves. They can take bigger risks, make bolder changes, push harder in one direction. And sometimes, that's exactly what you need to break a dominant team. Now here's where everything starts to align. Ferrari has identified the problem. They have time to work on it. They have the freedom to take risks. And they have two drivers who can extract everything from the car. Meanwhile, Mercedes has the advantage, but also the pressure of maintaining it. And in Formula One, maintaining dominance is often harder than achieving it. Because once others understand your advantage, they stop guessing. They start targeting. Directly, relentlessly. And that's exactly what Ferrari is about to do. Not chasing lap time, not chasing setups, chasing one thing, the core of Mercedes' performance, energy control. And if they get even close to matching it, the entire balance of power shifts. Because then, this is no longer a story about Mercedes dominating. It becomes a fight, a real one, where margins are small, where pressure is constant, where one mistake changes everything. So now, everything comes down to this moment, these next weeks, this development window. Because what Ferrari does here will decide whether Mercedes stays untouchable or becomes just another team under pressure. And this is where the real twist begins. Because everything we've talked about so far assumes Ferrari catches up. But what if they don't need to? What if the real danger for Mercedes isn't Ferrari matching them? It's Ferrari forcing them to change? Because right now, Mercedes has built something extremely specific. An engine that maximizes energy efficiency. A system that stretches performance across every straight. A balance that works perfectly with their entire car. But systems like that come with a cost. They are optimized, not flexible. And when you're optimized in one direction, you become vulnerable in others. This is the part nobody is talking about. Because if Ferrari starts improving their energy deployment, Mercedes faces a decision. Do they keep their current philosophy? Or do they adapt? And adapting is dangerous. Because the moment you change a winning formula, you introduce risk, small inconsistencies, unexpected behavior, performance losses in areas that were once strengths. And in a championship fight, that's all it takes. Now imagine this scenario. Ferrari gains just enough efficiency to stay close on the straights. Not faster, just close. Suddenly, Mercedes can't pull away as easily, which means they enter corners under pressure, which means tire wear increases, which means strategy becomes more complex. And just like that, the advantage starts to shrink. Not because Mercedes got slower, but because the race around them changed. And this is where Ferrari becomes dangerous. Because they don't need to dominate. They just need to disrupt. Force Mercedes into uncomfortable situations. Push them out of that perfect operating window. And once that happens, everything Mercedes built so carefully starts to feel less stable. Now add one more layer. Drivers. Because under pressure, drivers change. Even the best. Breaking points shift. Risk increases. Margins disappear. And when you're no longer managing the race, you're fighting it. That's when mistakes happen. And Ferrari knows this. They've seen it before. They've been on both sides of it. So their goal is not just technical. It's psychological. Close the gap enough. and let pressure do the rest. But here's the final piece, the one that connects everything. Because Ferrari didn't just discover a weakness. They discovered a direction, a path that leads straight to Mercedes' strongest area. And in doing so, they turned something invisible into something targetable. Before Suzuka, Mercedes' advantage looked untouchable. Too complex, too refined, too far ahead. Now, it has a shape, a structure, something Ferrari can chase. And in Formula One, the moment an advantage becomes understood, it starts to disappear. Not instantly, but inevitably. So now, the entire season hangs on one question. Not who is faster today, not who won in Japan, but who adapts faster from this moment forward. Because Mercedes is still ahead, but Ferrari is no longer guessing. And that changes everything. Because the most dangerous team in Formula One is not the one that's leading. It's the one that finally understands why they're losing.